What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Shy Bears Blitz podcast. I'm Abdul and I'm here with Omar. We've got a great episode for you guys today.
So we're just going to be grading what happened in the last NFL draft with the Chicago Bears. We're going to talk about how Ryan Pace did. We're also going to be talking about what we need as a team with this upcoming draft, and we'll be making our own final mock draft. And we're going to compare it with each other and see just what we have, what we want, and what we need to change with the team.
All right, let's get it. So for the 2021 draft, or actually the 2020 draft, we didn't have a first round pick. Why is that?
Yeah, so we had this amazing trade that we did when we traded Khalil Mack to the Raiders for a couple of firsts. And honestly, I thought we kind of fleeced the Raiders on it with what the pick the Raiders did. Besides Josh Jacobs being he's a good running back.
Josh Jacobs is good.
But I mean, we have Montgomery too, and he outperformed Josh Jacobs last year in yards and receiving yards, rushing yards and receiving yards. So honestly, I don't think we really lost much. And with what they got in the 2020 draft, they got kind of just like a useless cornerback. He didn't really do much for them. Yeah. So
I think we fleeced low key too. They picked, as you said, they picked Josh Jacobs with our 2019 first round pick. But when the last year they took cornerback Damon Arnett, we had the 19th overall pick. And they chose a cornerback, and his performance last year was less than spectacular. He didn't have a great year. And it's even funnier when you think about how we drafted Jalen Johnson in the second round, and he was the best rookie cornerback, arguably the best rookie cornerback. So we definitely won that trade in that aspect.
Honestly, we got a better cornerback out of that draft, and also David Montgomery is blowing up, so we got a really good running back also. So we
also have Khalil Mack, who is one of the best
edge rushers. We also have Khalil Mack. One of the best edge rushers. He did a lot for us in 2018. Of course, the stats don't show in 2019 and last year, but he does make an impact on the field. That's just without a doubt.
Facts. I wanted to talk about some notable picks that we could have taken at that time. Said that we picked at number 19. Some people that were available were wide receiver Justin Jefferson, who we know was the best rookie wide receiver last year with 1,400 receiving yards. There was also wide receiver Brandon Ayuk, but there was also linebacker Patrick Queen. How much could have those people helped with the team last year had we have drafted them?
I mean, Justin Jefferson was just an amazing receiver last year. If we had him, that would have been a huge boost in our receiving core. He would have easily taken over Anthony Miller's position. But of course, we did draft Darnell Mooney, and Darnell Mooney is very good for us. And I'm not mad that we could have had Justin Jefferson and we got Darnell Mooney. Darnell Mooney is easily a top 10 receiver out of that draft class, and on arguably like top 5 receiver out of that draft class. It just because of the quarterback play wise skill set didn't show. Brandon Ayuk is really good. I think he did better than Darnell Mooney, but I think Darnell Mooney, I'd rather have him because of his speed, and he has the hands to catch. He can catch unbelievable passes. For Patrick Queen's a good linebacker. He did well with the Ravens for a rookie, but I mean we have Roquan.
But then we also have an aging Danny Trevathan.
We do have an aging Danny Trevathan, but we can address that at a later draft because we still have Danny Trevathan for a couple more years. So, but I mean, all that for Khalil Mack, I'd take that trade easily. I mean,
of course. When you think about it as a whole, definite fleece. I'd say we won the draft. Very happy that we have Jalen Johnson. Very happy that we have David Montgomery and Khalil Mack over those picks. Now, to talk about the 2020 draft, I'd like to go in chronological order and talk about our picks. So, in round 2, with the Bears' first pick, in round 2, pick 43, we selected tight end Cole Kmet out of Notre Dame.
Yeah, so Cole Kmet was really good for us. I mean, he was one of our best blockers coming in as a rookie for a tight end, and he's learning off of Jimmy Graham. I mean, the dude has hands too. He's a very good tight end for us. He wasn't really able to go out on the field and receive catches because Matt Nagy didn't want him to for the first half of the season. But for when he did, I mean, when you look at that Saints game where he mossed that dude, or was it the Saints or Rams game?
I think it was a Rams game where he had the 40-yard pass. That was a Rams game.
Where he mossed over a cornerback. I mean, it was an unbelievable catch. The only problem with him is that, I think we mentioned it before in a previous podcast, but the only problem with him is that he fumbles very easily. He just needs to work on his handling. If he can hold on to the ball, he'll be a deadly tight end. I mean, the dude, not only can he block, but the dude can also just truck people. He always tries to go for those extra yards. And that's what I like to see from a tight end. That's what I see from Rob Gronkowski. That's what makes him elite. That's what I see from George Kittle. That's what makes him elite. That's what I see from Travis Kelsey. That's what makes him elite. So he can have that elite mind. He has that elite mindset of I want to get the extra yards. I want the ball. I want to get a touchdown. He has Jimmy Graham to mentor him, which is very good because I mean Jimmy Graham didn't do that well with Green Bay Packers, but he did very well with us as a red zone threat. So he definitely is a good mentor for Cole Kmet, even though Jimmy Graham is a little overpaid. But it's a very good pick. I liked it, and I don't regret it at all.
I agree. If we're looking at the stats, he doesn't really show flashily on the stats because he didn't have that many snaps. He had 56% total offensive snaps for the year, but that doesn't really show. In the first 9 weeks, he averaged 34% of the snaps. Matt Nagy did not want him to play. And then in the last 6 weeks, he had 84% of the snaps. He started coming out and playing the last couple of weeks. He had 28 receptions for 243 yards and 2 touchdowns total in 2020. And like you said, when we talk about that one play in the Rams game where he had that 40-yard catch, and then Matt Nagy just proceeds to take him out of the game. He is a great blocker. He has a great mentor in Jimmy Graham. And overall, I think that he will be great for the offense in the future. The only thing, like you said, is working on the fumbles because we saw that a couple times. Like in the Saints game, he got saved by the ref when he fumbled the ball. He's fumbled several other times before, but that's like the only concern that I have about him. But other than that, I think he'll be great for the offense coming into the future. And of course, he's a hometown hero. He's from Arlington, so you love to see someone who grew up as a Bears fan come and play for the franchise and give it their all. So I think that if I were to give this draft pick a grade, I'd give it a B.
Yeah, I'd give it a B. I think I would give it a little bit more, maybe like a B plus, just because his blocking is very good. His blocking is very good, especially for a rookie tight end. At the time, his blocking was very. I mean, he was outperforming offensive linemen. So I'd give it a B plus. I wouldn't give it an A because he wasn't really used that much in the offense. We didn't really see a lot of his skill sets. But I mean, he's very flashy when he does get the ball thrown to him. So I mean, we'll just see in the next season how he does. Maybe Jimmy Graham will still take majority of the snaps. Hopefully not. Hopefully we can see Cole Kmet shine. But yeah, so we'll see what happens with there. So moving on, we're gonna talk about. I want to mention to you about the next pick, which is pick 50, where we drafted Jalen Johnson, and I want to get your thoughts about that.
This pick was such a steal. He's arguably the best rookie cornerback in the league. You could argue L'Jarius Sneed, or you could argue a couple more other players, but he was great. There's injury concerns about him. That's the only concern that I have about him, but his skill is unique. He had 14 forced incompletions, the most by a rookie defensive back in 2020. And that's crazy when you think about how many defensive backs there were in the last draft. You had Antoine Winfield, you had Jeremy Chin, you had so many great defensive backs. You had L'Jarius Sneed. And then you see that he had that many, and he didn't even play the last 3 weeks because he injured his shoulder on a hit on Deshaun Watson in the Texans game. The only concern with him is his injuries, but his coverage is insane. I'm a little bit worried about his development as Kyle Fuller is not alongside him, but it's not as if now that Kyle Fuller's gone, he's going to play wide receiver ones specifically. That's not how the defense is coordinated. He'll still have time to develop, and I think that he's going to be a star. He has a bright future to be a top 10 cornerback in the league, and this pick was just spot on. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. He has an elite mentality for a cornerback, especially as a rookie too. Of course, when Kyle Fuller left, you heard a lot of people heard also Jalen Johnson go on a podcast saying, "I want to be cornerback one." So he declared it. I mean, he has an alpha mentality. He wants to be the best cornerback on that field. He wants to take over. He wants to be a lockdown corner. He was amazing for us rookie year. He came in the first game against the Lions. The dude was sticking like glue to the receivers. I mean, you couldn't. There was probably like an inch separation between him and the receiver.
And then the end of the
whole time.
game. The end of the game.
And he saved us in the end of the game. So I mean, he was just a solid cornerback, a solid rookie cornerback, arguably the best cornerback out of that draft class. I mean, you had Jeff Okudah with the Lions. He struggled starting off in the season, but he kind of picked it back up. But he still struggled, and that dude was taken third overall or something along those lines.
Yeah.
But I mean, Jalen Johnson going in, so a lot. Why the reason why he dropped was because a lot of people thought it was just injury concerns. He had a troubling shoulder, so people were like, oh, maybe if he comes into the NFL, it would just keep recurring, and then it would just drop. But I think of it as another Eddie Jackson situation, and that Ryan Pace took care of, where Eddie Jackson people thought where he was always going to get injured. He was an injury concern, and then we get him in the third round or fourth round, and then he just, Eddie Jackson was a demon for us, and that's why I think Jalen Johnson was. Jalen Johnson is a first round talent. We got him as a steal, a steal. He's amazing. I mean, just missing the 3 weeks and then having that stat line,
That's
insane.
crazy. That's crazy.
Insane.
Even especially when you think about all the talent that was in last draft, like it's insane.
Yeah. So he's easily going to be a cornerback one. He's going to mold into that cornerback one position. He does have the potential to be a top 10 cornerback. I believe in him. I mean, he has that mentality. He just wants to fight. He wants to be the best on the field, and that's what I like to see.
If I were to give this a grade, it would be an A. It would be an A plus if he didn't have the injuries. And I'm looking to see what his development is as a cornerback one within the Chicago Bears defense next year or in the future altogether. I would give it an A, but likely to turn into an A plus. What about you?
I mean, I give it an A plus. The dude performed for a rookie. I mean, he balled out. He did better than most cornerback ones did. I mean, as a rookie, that's very good. He would go. It's because our defense back then, they would line up. We didn't have a cornerback set on just a wide receiver one. You would have wide receiver ones line up on his side too, or on Kyle Fuller's side, and he would always lock him down. I mean, besides that one crazy catch that AJ Brown had against him, with that one-handed catch, I mean, he
That
was
was
locking him
just
down
a
the entire game.
dime.
That was a dime by Ryan Tannehill, and that was a crazy catch by AJ Brown. But besides that, he locked him down pretty much the entire game. So he has that potential to lock down amazing receivers, and I could see him easily growing to be one of the top 10 cornerbacks in the NFL.
Agreed. So now moving on to the next pick. In round 5, pick 155, we picked offensive linebacker Trevis Gibson. What do you think about this?
So he didn't really get played much throughout the season. So he didn't really see that much play time until the last 4 weeks of the season. Honestly, I still think he's better than Robert Quinn. Robert Quinn is I think anyone could do better than Robert Quinn. But I mean, Trevis Gibson, he's shown some flashiness, but he didn't really do too much. So we're just gonna have to see more out of him in the next season. See what happens. He was a rookie drafted in the 5th round, so no one really had too high of expectations. But I mean, performing better than a veteran outside linebacker, that's pretty good. So
I agree with that. I don't know if hopefully Robert Quinn will have a better year next year. But
I'm just trashing him too hard.
Yeah. But
just jokes.
It's in a round 5 pick. Kind of in a round 5 pick, you're not expecting a full-fledged starter. He's kind of a gamble. He didn't really see much play time, as you said, until the last couple of weeks. He had 48 total snap counts, but he had some shines of showing that he could be an okay player, more of a rotational player. So I hope to see that in the future. But overall, if I were to give this a grade because I didn't see much of it, I'd see maybe like a C minus.
Yeah, I would give it a C minus as well. I mean, we don't really see anything. Honestly, I mean, I'm not gonna grade it an F because I would say an F is a bust, but he didn't bust, but he didn't really do anything like
monumental to the team.
Yeah, he didn't really do anything. So, but yeah, so we just move on.
In round 5, pick 163, we picked cornerback Kendall Veldor. What do you think about that?
I like that pick. Kendall Veldor was solid for us for however many plays he went in. He didn't go in that much, but I mean, he had possibly a touchdown saving tackle against Dalvin Cook, where he pretty much ankle picked him from the distance, which was really good. He gets burned a few times, but I could see the potential in him being a solid corner. I would say his ceiling is a cornerback too. I would say he can, if he learns that nickelback position, he'll be a solid nickelback for us to take over Buster Screen, because obviously Buster Screen didn't work out. But he did come in for a little bit, and he did do decent. But he was still that's just how like the average rookie cornerback was. So it's not a bad pick. I mean, I liked it.
Mm-hmm.
I liked
it. I don't really have any complaints for it. I mean, as I said before, round 5, you're not picking full-fledged starters. He did step into the nickelback role because Buster Screen was suffering with concussions the last couple of weeks. He even played 100% of the snaps in one of the games. He started playing a good majority of snaps towards the end of the year. And you would see signs of a solid player, like you said, with the Dalvin Cook tackle. He seems like his ceiling is definitely a cornerback, too. I'm not going to say that he's going to be he has the ceiling of a cornerback one, such as Jalen Johnson, but he shows flashes of being a decent player. So if I were to give this a grade, it probably would be a C.
I would give this a B minus, because it was a round 5 pick, and he did do solid for a round 5 pick. He did flash every once in a while, but I mean, he didn't start for as long as Jalen Johnson did. He only came in towards the end of the season, pretty much. So, but I mean, he
That's
was
true.
solid for us. Yeah, he was solid for us, and he has potential. So I would give him a B minus. I could see him staying on the team for a while, either as a starting nickel or a starting quarterback too, or as just solid depth for us. So
True.
yeah, I think it's solid.
In round 5, pick 173, we picked wide receiver Donna Mooney from Tulane University.
This is my boy. This is easily the most underrated receiver out of that draft class. I mean, he dropped round 5 for just
Dude,
a
he was the
talent like that.
24th receiver taken.
That man has probably one of the best hands I've ever seen out of that draft class, and that's saying something. I mean, that catch that he had against Green Bay,
Oh,
that was
the 50
insane.
yarder.
That was
Oh, that was
insane.
beautiful.
And the man has speed too. I
He
mean,
does.
he had 61 receptions, 631 yards, 4 touchdowns, and that just doesn't include like probably like 200 more yards that he could
Oh
have
yeah,
had.
unrealized yards because you
Yeah,
see him killing Jalen Ramsey. He's like he crosses him up
he
like
he burns cornerbacks. He burns cornerbacks, and he just gets overthrown always. I remember the first game he went in during his first snap. The defense, they were all yelling speed. They were all already acknowledging his speed before he even had his first snap in the NFL. So obviously, I mean, the dude is a speed demon. He just out, and his route running is very good. He catches very good, and he just burns everyone. I mean, he's just extremely underrated. I don't know how he dropped. The dude was like the third fastest person out of the draft, so it's just surprising he dropped to round 5. The only thing that I'm worried about is that I mentioned this before. His physique is kind of just small, so I could see him just getting a big hit taken, and then he could get injured from that. But the dude, if he stays healthy, easily just an amazing wide receiver for us for in the future.
agreed. I think that that's a little bit of a concern as well as we saw in the Week 17 game versus the Packers. He took a big hit out of bounds, and he didn't appear in the Saints game. So his frame, he's he's 5'9". He's probably about 160 pounds. He's not a big receiver. His build is comparable to that of Tyreek Hill, and he has that speed. And like you said, this was the steal of the draft. How did he fall so far? He had like a 4.3840. He is insane. He has some of the best hands. He had the
Oh
lowest
yeah,
drop percentage. He had 1% drop. And then when you think about the quarterback play that's associated with it, the percent of catchable balls that he could have, and then associated with as many drops as he did, he is the steal of the draft. He's one of the best rookie wide receivers. I'd personally put him as the third or fourth best rookie wide receiver out of last draft,
hmm
due to his performance and the quarterback play associated with it. And he is a demon. I didn't really notice it until the Giants game when he started going crazy, and he had that touchdown in the back of the end zone from
where the quarterback dropped on his
yeah,
knees,
and then
yeah,
it was the
they did
curl
the
route, yeah, and he came
yeah, yeah,
back and started dancing. That is
yeah.
when I really started to notice that Darnell Mooney's a star, and he easily took the wide receiver 2 role from Anthony Miller. He snatched it
Oh
because
yeah.
Anthony Miller was not producing last year.
He has that swagger. He has that swagger.
He does,
You
and
could
he
say
has that
good
drip.
or elite.
If you've seen his
Yeah,
fits, he has that drip.
he has that drip. I mean, the dude just he knows what's up. The first thing he bought was a jugs machine so he can catch
Oh,
footballs.
that's facts. Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
true.
he's dedicated to football, and that's what I like to see. It's his job. He has to commit to that job, and he wants to be the best at it. So he keeps on training to be the best at it, and obviously it's showing with just how he's catching balls, how he's burning people, how his route running is, how he's just acting on the field. I mean, he's amazing for us. If I were to grade this, I would give this an A+ easily
A
for
plus, A
round five.
plus plus. I swear.
Round 5, just for that talent, A+ easily. The dude is just amazing for us, and I'm very happy we have him. Um, I if Allen Robinson decides to leave, after the season, he could step into that wide receiver one position. I want to see more out of him in this upcoming season. See if he could step up in that wide receiver two role and kind of take over and kind of show some leadership in that receiving core. So we'll see what happens. Obviously, he is learning from Allen Robinson too. So Allen Robinson would be a very good mentor for him. I'm very happy we have him. Yeah,
Oh,
just an
of
A
course.
plus.
I'm A+ pick. Very happy we have him. He has a bright future. He has
Yeah.
probably a ceiling. He could be a top 10 wide receiver in a couple of years if
Mhm.
his development is on this track. When you see his stats, when you see him compared to other rookie wide receivers, and then if you hopefully believe that the quarterback play will increase or the quarterback play will be better in Chicago, if he gets a real quarterback, he's going to be dangerous.
Yeah, he's going to be dangerous. I wouldn't say I would say top 10 is kind of a stretch.
Hmm.
I actually I
In
wouldn't
a
say it's
couple of,
too much
I'm
of a
saying in a
stretch.
couple of years.
In a
In a
couple
couple
of
of
years,
years,
I would say he could hit top 15.
top
I
15.
could say
Yeah,
realistically he could hit top 15 receiver in the NFL.
I can see that. All right. So now to our next pick. In round 7, pick 223, we picked offensive lineman Arlington Hambright.
So this pick, I mean, it's a round 7 pick. We didn't really see too much of him. He didn't
Yeah,
really do much. I'm pretty sure he's spent most of his time in the practice squad. We did pick another offensive lineman after, Latavius Simmons, and we didn't really see much. So those two were just kind of like
they're like meh
draft,
picks.
yeah, draft, and we'll see if they can do something. If they can't, it's whatever. It's round 7. It's pretty
Yeah,
much just like undrafted. So I would grade these just Fs because nothing really happened.
yeah. They played like 7% of the snaps. Like
Yeah,
probably
so
give it like
I
a
mean,
D or something.
yeah,
They
so
weren't very like impressive. I mean, I saw like in the very few snaps Arlington Hambright played. If I don't know if you remember this in the Panthers game, in his very first snap, he committed a penalty and
oh
it kicked us out of field goal range.
yeah,
We ended up winning that game still, but I was just like, oh, this is the rookie we drafted. He didn't really do much. Him and Latavius Simmons, I couldn't even find any data on snap count on Latavius Simmons. So
I don't even think he went in.
yeah,
I don't
he
think he went
definitely
in.
didn't go in.
I mean, but with our offensive lineman that we had in the beginning of the season, that obviously shows that he's not up to that standard.
Yeah. If
So
Rashad Coward is starting over him, that's a concern.
yeah, so I would give this an F. I mean, maybe they come in next season and then they do decent, but I mean, based off last season, there's just nothing. I mean, it was just like drafting like practice squad players. That's pretty
Facts.
much how it is.
Now to talk about our Bears 2021 needs to be addressed in the draft coming up this Thursday. I'd like to start off with the first position. It's cornerback. Obviously, we had Kyle Fuller cut recently, so we're going to need to fill that cornerback role. We signed Desmond Trufant to a 1-year deal, but obviously that is not long term. And we see that we have Jalen Johnson possibly stepping into the cornerback 1 role, but we're going to need a cornerback 2. And we have Duke Shelley and Kendall Veldor, but I believe that cornerbacks is definitely a necessity in the draft. And so first we should talk about Caleb Farley from Virginia Tech.
Caleb Farley, he's a solid cornerback. From what I've seen or what I've heard, he had a recent back surgery, so that could be a concern. He's somewhat injury prone, so that could be a concern. But yeah, we are in need of a cornerback because if Jalen Johnson were to take that cornerback 1 role, and we need a cornerback to learn that cornerback 2 role behind Desmond Trufant, if Kendall Vildor doesn't work out, also we need a nickelback. So if this could probably be another Jalen Johnson type thing where he drops and we can pick him up because of injury concern that people have, and he could ball out for us. So if he drops, yeah, I would pick him up. He's a solid cornerback. But yeah, I want to get your thoughts on that.
Agreed. I think that he's a solid. I mean, the injuries are a little bit of concern. I wouldn't be too mad if we drafted him at 20. I'd much rather go offense.
Mhm.
Just looking at his talent. But if he was in the second round, if he's available at pick 52 for us, that's a steal.
Yeah.
But now I'd like to talk about who's probably not likely to drop to us, but if he is, J.C. Horn out of South Carolina. He's one of the best. He allowed 8 catches and 24 targets in the SEC. He is probably going to get drafted a couple of picks early before the 20th pick, so I do not see him dropping to us, but I wanted to get your thoughts about him.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, the dude is a solid cornerback for. I think he'll be decent in the NFL, but I don't think he's gonna drop to us. There's, I mean, a lot of teams that need to work on their defense, their cornerback
That,
position, and
that's true.
we're in the lower part of that draft, and I doubt we're gonna trade up for a cornerback. And I doubt we're gonna even get a cornerback in the first round, just because we need to work on our offensive pieces even more than we do defense.
Great. Next person is Ahsante Samuel Jr. He is out of Florida State, which is DBU. You talk about, or you think about all the DBs that have come out of Florida State. You talk about Deion Sanders, Derwin James, Xavier Rhodes. There are so many players that have come out of Florida State that succeed in the NFL. And he's the son of legend cornerback Ahsante Samuel. He was a 3-year starter, and he allowed 179 yards in coverage last year. He's a solid cornerback, but I do not think that he's a first-round talent at the pick that the Bears are at right now. Probably towards the lower end of the draft, he could be a first-round pick, but I say second round. If he's in there in the second round, then snag him.
Yeah, I mean, Ahsante Samuel Jr. If he's there in the second round, I would weigh out if there are any tackles that we could get possibly even better than what we could get for Ahsante Samuel Jr. Then yeah, sure. I would say we should maybe focus on cornerbacks later on. Focus on the first two rounds for more of offensive pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
agreed. Now, I'd like to talk about safety. We know that safety is in need. We re-signed Sean Gibson Sr. to a 1-year deal, but obviously that is not long-term. We have Eddie Jackson locked up for the next couple of years, but we don't have a strong safety for the team. We re-signed Deion Bush, but he's not likely to step in that role. He's likely to be on special teams. So I think that safety is another need that needs to be addressed. And one of the picks, or one of the prospects, is Elijah Mulden out of Washington. He had a 90.2 coverage grade in 2019, and he had an 86.2 in 2020. He looks to be a solid player, but if he's projected to go in the second round, I would not mind a player in the second round, or a safety or a defensive back. But like I said, or like you said, most likely would like to focus on offense for the first 2 rounds.
Yeah, so there's another pick I don't think we're going to be getting, just because we should focus on the offense the first 2 rounds. Another pick that I think we should probably focus on that might drop to the 3rd round is Jamar Johnson from Indiana. He's just a solid safety. 406 snaps, 7 interceptions, 6 pass breakups. I mean, he'd be a solid safety to pair up with Eddie Jackson. Of course, Deshaun Gibson is signed for a 1-year deal. We don't know if he can stay for that much longer. I mean, he's also decently
he's
old.
He's old. Yeah. He's like, what? He's 30,
so
31.
We do need a safety in that, just to learn probably from Eddie Jackson or from Deshaun Gibson. I mean, he can learn from either of them to be a strong safety or a free safety. He has the potential. So yeah, if he's in the 3rd round, around that area, yeah, I'd pick him up.
Agreed. And another person that could be available in the 3rd round would be Richie Grant out of UCF. Unlike Jamar Johnson, who's not very in the box player, Richie Grant is great in the box. He's great in run support. He's been a starter for several years in the program, and from what I've seen, his coverage is pretty decent. I think that if he's available in the 3rd round, that would definitely be a snag, but mainly focused on the first 2 being offense.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you said. If he's in the 3rd round, yeah, it'd definitely be a snag. I would pick him up. He's solid for us, especially with run support, since we struggled a little bit in the run last season. So if he were to go in, then yeah, that boosts us a little. But
all right. Now I'd like to talk about offensive line. As we saw, that offensive line was pretty much an issue last year. We had so many formations. We had so many people starting and not starting. We had injuries. We had several injuries among the line. We had several different combinations. It is imperative that we draft a offensive tackle this year, and hopefully within the first 2 rounds, you see that within this draft, there's so many offensive tackles available. You see generational talents like Penei Sewell, who we're obviously not going to get. He's going to be drafted in the first in one of the top 5 picks, most likely. But there are several other prospects that are possible to take, and one of them is Elijah Vera Tucker out of USC. What do you think about him?
I think if he drops to us, I mean, yeah, I would take him. He's an amazing blocker. He's day 1 starter. So yeah, I would take him. He would only probably drop in the rankings if Darisaw were to get picked before him.
Mm-hmm.
But if he were there, yeah, I would take him. But I mean, I don't know if he will be there. I wouldn't trade up for him. But yeah, so what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, agreed. I would not like to trade up for an offensive tackle. When you're trading up, especially that much or a couple of picks, the only situation that I would like to see the Bears trade up in the first round is for a quarterback. And it's only if the quarterback is the one for us. But we'll talk about that in a little bit. But Elijah Vera Tucker, from what I've seen, he's a great run blocker. He's they've questioned his measurements. His arms were a little bit long, so they put him as offensive guard, offensive tackle. But he could be a day one starter on the Bears line. And I think that if he's available at 20, you have to pick that.
I mean, obviously, because we have Jermaine Ifedi probably going to be starting in that tackle position. We need somebody besides Charles Leno Jr. to play that tackle position. I mean, we have Mustafa at center. We have James Daniels coming back. We have Cody White here at guard. And Charles Leno starting at tackle. We need somebody to fill that other tackle position. And Elijah Vera Tucker, if we were to fall to us, easily be day one starter, easily fill that position for us, and we would just be solid from then on. So another offensive lineman that could probably come to us in the 20th is Tevin Jenkins. I don't know if I'm saying his name right.
Tevin Jenkins, from Oklahoma State.
He could fall to us the first round or even the second round from Oklahoma State. So he's a very good run blocker for us, and that's solid for just Montgomery. We struggled at run blocking. I mean, Montgomery was just
powering through. The first couple of games were disgusting.
Horrible run blocking. But he would definitely boost our run. So he would be a solid pickup for us, maybe in the second round. First round, I don't think I would take him in the first.
If it would pretty much depend on what tackles are available in the first for me to take him at 20. If Elijah Vera Tucker's gone, if Darrisaw's gone, all those players are gone, then I would not take him at 20. But I hope that he will fall to 52. I don't know if he will, but like you said, he's an angry blocker. He's a great run blocker, and the Bears need that. In the first couple of games last year, we didn't have a great run game altogether. There were some games where we had Barkevious Mingo. There was one game where we had Barkevious Mingo being our lead rusher for the game at half.
Yeah.
Like, the run game was not there in the first half of the season.
I think that was in the Titans game.
Yeah, I think it was the Titans. The fake punt.
It was the punt. It was a fake punt where during the halftime he was our leading rusher. Barkevious Mingo. I mean, at the edge. I mean, that just
that was goofy.
Yeah, that was goofy. That's just unfortunate, really.
Yeah. So if Tevin Jenkins is there at 20 and they manage to pick him, I won't be terribly mad from watching his tape, but I'd much rather pick him in the second round, looking as that he's a second round talent. And the same is actually with Samuel Cosmi, who's another offensive tackle prospect who could be available at 20 and is most likely to be available at 20. I think that might be a little bit of a reach by the Bears. Possibly, I don't think that he'll be available at 52 though. So to get him, there must be a trade. He'll probably go within the 30s to 40s. But looking at his tape, Texas, we have Tom Herman, who was the head coach of Texas, the Texas Longhorns last year. He was the coach for the past 3 years. So to have familiarity and to know that Samuel Cosmi is, or to have someone within our system, an offensive analyst, knowing who Samuel Cosmi is, and can vouch for him and can put him within the system and mold towards him, that would be great. But I do not see him getting picked in the first round.
I mean, unless it's a possibility for us to trade back too. For somebody to want to trade up to the 20th spot, and we can trade back and pick them up. So I mean, I'm not opposed to that idea. If we don't have any better options, I don't see why not. It'll be a solid pickup for us in the second round if we do trade back and we can get some picks out of it.
Agreed. Now to talk about the quarterbacks. So first, I'd like to talk about Trey Lance from North Dakota State University. I think that Trey Lance has great potential. I don't know if I'd trade the farm to get him though. I could see him going third overall. I could see him going to the 49ers. I could see the Falcons drafting him as Matt Ryan's successor. I could see him getting drafted to a couple other teams. I could see him going to the Broncos. But I do not know if he'll really fit within our system. I think that he's a great player. But I would not trade the farm for him altogether. And you kind of question his ability. He has great arm talent, but his reading defenses is not one of his great skills. He did not play against a great competition. He played in the FCF, or was it? No, that's FBS, I think. He didn't even play this season. He played in 2019, and he played a little bit in 2020, I believe. But he chose to not continue the season
Yeah, I
and
think
rather
he
declare
opted
for the
out
draft. Yeah,
after
he
like a
opted
game.
out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
after
so
like
he
a
he
game.
didn't really play. So we didn't see much of him, or we didn't see any of him realistically this year. But I think that he's one of the top quarterback prospects. He'll probably go very early. I could see him getting taken very early. But what are your thoughts about that?
So I think Trey Lance is a very raw prospect. He does have the potential to be a decent quarterback or a pretty good quarterback. He's very athletic. I mean, the dude was just averaging probably like almost 100 rush yards per game. I mean, the dude was just getting like just a bunch of rushing touchdowns, but he was also averaging like what, like 163 yards passing per game,
Mm-hmm.
something like that. To be honest, I kind of see him as another Mitchell Trubisky. He doesn't have that much experience in the draft, very raw, very athletic, uh, but I don't trust our coaches to develop a
Me
quarterback because
neither.
they have never developed a quarterback before. So I wouldn't. I like Trey Lance. I think Trey Lance, if placed on the correct team, he will ball out.
But he is
But
very much a project. He's such a project.
yeah, if we don't offer up a lot to trade up for and get him, then yeah, I'll take him. I like him. But honestly, I don't see him going in the third. I think he would drop more to that low 10th
Low
to
tens. Mm-hmm.
15ish, 10 to 15ish range. Because I believe there are better quarterbacks ahead of him who have just proven themselves. And of course, he didn't play in the 2020 season, which is just detrimental to just how people are evaluating him.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he's just a raw prospect, and I would trade up a little. I wouldn't trade up too much for him. I wouldn't trade up everything for him. But if we were to trade up to like, I would say like 14 or 13 to be able to get him, then yeah, I'd do it. I think he's a solid. He'll be a solid quarterback. I mean, he threw no interceptions. That's pretty
I
impressive.
agree. I think that he's a decent prospect. But to talk about the next prospect that I like a little bit more, actually a lot more, Justin Fields. If Justin Fields passes third, or the 49ers do not take Justin Fields at third overall, I think that we have to trade up and get him. In 2019, he had an incredible season. He had 41 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. And then last year, with limited games, he had only in about 6 games, in half a season, he had 22 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. He is a great player. He can move on his feet. He has the same measurements as Trey Lance, so they're about the same build. But with Justin Fields, he played in a much, much, much harder division. He played in the Big Ten, and when
Yep.
you look at the competition within the Big Ten, it's great. He was even in the college football playoffs this year. He led what was it, the semifinals that they no the actual championship. My bad. They got to the actual championship. You see Justin Fields. They like to talk about his character issues. They like to say that he's the first one, or he's the last one there and the first to leave. But I don't really believe any of that. They talk about recently came out that he's has epilepsy, but most of his family members have they don't have the
Outgrown
problem
him.
in their 20s.
Yep.
They've outgrown the problem. So I don't think that's much of a concern either. I think Justin Fields is the second best quarterback prospect, and if the 49ers manage to pass on him, then he is a complete snag. What do you think about him?
Oh, I'm just gonna correct you because I think he's the second. I think he's the third because I think Zach Wilson would be the second best
Mm-hmm.
quarterback prospect. But honestly, I think the whole 49er thing with them getting Mac Jones is just smoke. I think they're gonna get Justin Fields. I think he has a lot more potential than Mac Jones does. But yeah, if he goes past that pick 3, then I think we should trade up and get him. I think he'd be solid for us. He did struggle a little bit towards the end of the season in college, but he picked it back up during the end. They beat Clemson. They beat Clemson, and that's a pretty good school to beat, especially for somebody that was struggling for a couple of games. But I think he'll be a solid quarterback for us if we were to pick him up. But we would have to trade a lot
Mm-hmm.
to in
It
order
would cost so
to
much
go up
draft
and
capital to
yeah
go from
to pick him up.
20 to 4, or other picks are early on in the draft. But I think that he's such a great prospect. You've
Yeah,
seen that Zach Wilson has come up and taken it, and you personally think that Zach Wilson is the number 2 prospect, and we have
yeah.
like differing opinions. But you see that Zach Wilson has Justin Fields was the number 2 consensus until Zach Wilson came out.
I
So
mean, when you look at it, I don't want to just say just because he has better weapons and whatever because he went to
mhm,
Ohio State, but he did have better weapons and a better offensive. Just I mean, actually, I think BYU had a solid offensive line, but he
mhm.
did have just a better offensive system. at Ohio State than Zach Wilson did at BYU. So I think Zach Wilson had to sort of prove himself more than Justin Fields did, and he did prove himself more. He did do better than Justin Fields did throughout the season. So I think um, if I were to choose one, I would choose Zach Wilson. I think he would just be a better
Mm-hmm.
prospect. I think he would. I think he has more potential than Justin Fields. I think he's better just as a day one starter
Mm-hmm.
than Justin Fields would be as a day one starter. But yeah, if Justin Fields were to drop to pick 4 to 5 to 6, yeah, I'd trade up and get him. But obviously, how much is too much?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I want to trade like next year's first plus
2 more years of
all our
first, three
yeah,
three
2 more years
firsts,
of first
including
plus
this
all our
or
picks
yeah,
this year, and I mean, they're just sometimes too
like a
much is too
Ricky
much.
Williams trade.
Yeah, so I mean, I I I don't know if I really want to put Pace into that position also
Mm-hmm.
to put to choose our quarterback when he failed. I mean, he
That's true.
chose Mitchell Trubisky. He failed. He chose Mike Lennon to be the starter when Mitchell Trubisky came in. He failed. He got Nick Foles. He failed. Chase Daniels was a solid backup for us, but I mean that's all he was.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't really mentor Trubisky that much because Trubisky didn't really mold into that quarterback we wanted him to be. And now he got Andy Dalton, and honestly, I think that's also a fail. Um,
We
so
have
I don't really
consistently
trust.
failed. Yeah, we've
Yeah,
consistently failed at the quarterback position. So I
I
don't
don't
know.
really trust Ryan Pace in that in choosing a quarterback.
Agreed. But to talk about the next prospect, he's been building up some buzz recently as going third overall to the San Francisco 49ers. Mac Jones out of Alabama, who was a Heisman candidate. He finished top 5 in Heisman voting. He is a decent prospect, but I think that if he's available at 20, I think that he'd be an okay pick. I wouldn't be ecstatic over it. I think that he's a decent prospect. In my opinion, he is the fifth best quarterback prospect out of this year's quarterback prospects. I think that he had a great offensive line. He's in Alabama. He has everything made
Mhm.
for him when you think about it. He has the best receivers. He has a great running back. He has a good defense as well, and he has Nick Saban coaching him.
Yeah,
He did not start until this year. He was behind Tua, but he showed out this year. He had a great college season, and overall, I think that he's a decent prospect. If he was there at 20, then I'd say that I'd pick him, but I wouldn't be too confident within it. He's more of a in the pocket passer. He's not very mobile, as you see. He kind of reminds me a little bit of Nick Foles when I watch him play, but he throws dimes. He is very accurate. He looks like a good prospect. But what do you think about him?
I honestly, if you were to drop to 20, I think that'd be a very good pick for us. I mean, he balled out for Alabama. I mean, what's the difference between him and Joe Burrow with LSU? I mean, Joe Burrow had Justin Jefferson and he had Jamar Chase. I mean, those Justin Jefferson is the best receiver coming out of the draft, and then Jamar Chase is a top 3 receiving pick coming out of this draft. So, I mean, what's the difference between those two balling out? I mean, Joe Burrow went first overall. Mac Jones, people are saying should be going like early second, late first. But no, I mean, I think Mac Jones should get the respect he deserved. He
Mm-hmm.
balled out at every game that he played with Alabama. He did what he needed to do. Yeah, I'm not as high on him as I would be Justin Fields and Trey Lance and
Mm-hmm.
of course like Zach Wilson and them. But I think he's a solid prospect, and I think he'll be a solid QB in the NFL. He just needs to sort of just learn how to handle himself in the pocket, learn how to scramble a little bit. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
he's not as mobile as most QBs are. I wouldn't sort of put him in that Nick Foles position. I feel like that's more of a Kyle Trask type of player. I feel like Kyle Trask is more immobile than him. Obviously, I don't think Kyle Trask should be picked
No,
uh,
nowhere near the top, or nowhere near the
nor
first round.
or second. To be honest, he struggled a lot. But Mac Jones, I think would be a solid pick for us at 20. And if you were to fall to us at 20, I would say we hop on it. We need to fix our quarterback position. We do need to draft a quarterback, and if he were to fall to us, yeah, grab him.
Hopefully that I hope that he's taken at number 3 overall. If we're gonna
Yeah,
be honest, but to talk about the next quarterback prospect, Kellen Mond out of Texas A&M, I've I'm such a fan of Kellen Mond. I know that I've looked at a couple of stats when looking at the success rate of cornerbacks because he's projected to be a second rounder. The success rate of cornerbacks in the second round, there's not many. You know of Tom Brady, Russell Wilson, Dak Prescott, Derek Carr, but you don't really know much other than that when you think of cornerbacks. You could say Nick Foles and Andy Dalton, but their success. Nick Foles has had success, obviously winning a Super Bowl, and Andy Dalton has been a solidified starter. But when you're looking at the success rate of quarterbacks past the second round, it's not that much of a hit. But when I look at Kellen Mond, when I saw that the clip similar that he had to Zach Wilson, where he had the across the arm throw, he is a great runner. He has a deadly arm. He has probably the best arm talent out of the draft, other than Trey Lance. You could argue between the two. But I think that if he's there in the second round, then he would be such a snag, and I would love him on the team. What do you think?
Yeah, I feel like he was in the second round. We should pick him up, definitely. If we don't pick up a quarterback in the first and we draft like a tackle. But I think he's just more risky than he would be a Mac Jones type or even a Trey Lance type because the dude has potential, yeah, but he's also another raw prospect. But I don't know if I trust like I said, our coaches to just mold that
Develop
QB,
him.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
develop that QB to be what we want him to be. So I would shoot a shot with him. If it doesn't work out, he could probably be like a solid backup for us.
Mm-hmm.
But if it does work out, that's good for us. But Kellen Mond, yeah, he showed potential at the Senior Bowl too, and he showed potential during the season. But I think you just stick with the sort of just like mid late second round. If he does come to us, yeah, pick him up.
Agreed. Now, for the last prospect I'd like to talk about, Davis Mills out of Stanford. I've been seeing some mocks that we trade down to take him in the first round because obviously when you have a starting quarterback, you want to take him in the first round so you can have the fifth-year option. So I've seen some mocks about that, us taking Davis Mills, trading down for the 32nd pick, something along those lines. I would not be happy if we did that. Take him in the first round. I've seen his stats. His stats aren't that impressive, but he is a sort of underrated prospect. He looks decent. He is sort of a pocket passer. He's not incredibly mobile, but overall, he looks as if he's a decent prospect. I'd say he's more in the second to third round range. If I were to put him against Kellen Mond, I would much rather have Kellen Mond. They're not actually, not, I wouldn't say much rather. I would rather have Kellen Mond. They're not too very far away from each other. But Davis Mills, he's a decent prospect. If we're to take a shot on the cornerback and Kellen Mond isn't there in the third round, say, I'd definitely take him. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think he has the same potential as Kellen Mond does. I think they have just sort of just
Different
late
play
second,
styles.
yeah, different play styles, but I think they're just more of that late second, early third type of quarterbacks that need to be taken. Davis Mills, I no, I don't. I think that'd be horrible if we trade back and get him in the first round. I'd be very mad. That'd kind of be like the Jordan Love thing with the Packers when you got just a Hall of
Oh,
Fame quarterback.
disgusting.
Just why? I mean, he doesn't have that much hype around him. He didn't do. I mean, yeah, he did all right in college, but it wasn't really flashy.
Hmm.
He shouldn't be. He's not first round potential quarterback. But if we shoot our shot with him in the second round, yeah, sure. If Kellen Mond isn't available, I do prefer Kellen Mond over Davis Mills, but I take either one in the second round. At our pick.
Agreed. Now, to talk about wide receivers, I'd like to talk about someone that could be available at the number 20 overall pick, Rashad Bateman out of Minnesota. He had that 4.40 unofficial 40 at his pro day. He looks to be an amazing wide receiver. He plays in the slot. He doesn't have great quarterback play, which is pretty familiar in Chicago.
Yeah.
I think that he is such a great prospect. I know that we're more focused on quarterback and offensive tackle in the first round, but we also see that Allen Robinson only has a year left on his deal. He's on a franchise tag. So if we were to replace him with Rashad Bateman in this draft at the number 20 overall pick, I would be happy. What do you think?
I would be if we were to trade Allen Robinson away before the season starts. But if we have Allen Robinson, I don't think we should take him. If the only person I'd take besides him, if a receiver were to drop, would be one of the top three receivers, which is Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith, or Jamar Chase. But I doubt they're going to drop to the 20th. Rashad Bateman's a solid receiver. I don't know if I'll take him. I'd rather take a tackle instead, if there's a really good tackle available, or if one of the quarterbacks we talked about we could trade up and get, or if Mac Jones is available at 20, I'd rather take him. So I mean, he's not gonna he's a solid receiver, but unless we have A Rob, I don't think there's a point in getting him.
Mm-hmm. The next receiver I'd like to talk about is Elijah Moore out of Ole Miss. He is a slot wide receiver. He had a 73% contested catch. They like to compare him a little bit to Allen Robinson. I don't know if they're giving him that much or if they're giving him too much praise with that. He's projected to be bottom of the first rounders. So at 20, that might be a little bit of a reach. But if he's in the second round, I'd say that he'd be a solid pick.
Yeah, if he's in the second round, it'd be a solid pick. But in the first round, no. I don't even think I would trade back for him in the first, unless we trade back sort of like in the mid second if he's available to get him. But no, I wouldn't get him in the first round. I don't think our receiver is our best bet with him in the first. Like I said, I think we should stick with more with a quarterback or offensive line type of pick in the first round. So no, I don't think he's the
And I think
answer.
the same thing would be with another prospect, Rondale Moore. I would, if he's available at 20, he's going to be available at 20, no doubt. I think that would be a reach, and I would not like to trade down. Available in the second, like Elijah Moore, if he's available in the second, then that'd be a decent pick. But now that would be too much of a reach to trade down or to take him at 20 overall.
Yeah, I agree. I just think we shouldn't get him in the first. If we were to trade back, sort of like in that early-ish mid type second, and pick him up, then yeah, sure, why not go for it? But no, I don't see us getting him. Somebody who I actually like a lot from Florida is Kadarius Toney. He sort of reminds me of that Debo Samuel, where it just yards after the catch type runner. So if he falls for us in the second round, I would like to pick him up. But I don't think he would fall to us in the second round. I think he's gonna go early second. Sort of just like in that 40 type range. I wouldn't trade up to get him, but yeah, I like him as a receiver more than I do Rondale Moore, and Elijah Moore. But yeah, I like Kadarius Toney. I want to get your thoughts on that.
He's definitely not getting as much love because coming out of Florida, everyone's on the Kyle Pitts hype train. I'm on there as well, but
Same.
he's definitely a solid prospect. I could see him going in the late first round and towards teams that definitely need receivers. Like I could see the Green Bay Packers taking him if he's available at the bottom of the first round. But like you said, I pretty much see him going in the early 40s, that sort of range, and we don't pick until 52. So I don't see him being available, but he's a solid prospect. But to give one sleeper, Jalen Darden out of North Texas. I don't know if you've seen his tape, but he is so shifty. He is one of the shiftiest players. His tape has like 1 million views on YouTube, so he's kind of getting a little bit of hype right now. But if he was available in the fourth round, I think that he could low-key turn it into a starter. That would be one of the picks. Like you saw how we turned Donna Mooney into a full-fledged starter in just 1 year. He could develop and he could be great with the Bear system with his shiftiness. He's like you said with Kadarius Toney, the rack or the yak yards after catch. He's great with that with his shiftiness. He'd be a great prospect. But overall, the wide receiver class is pretty deep. We very much need to pick one. Hopefully in the second round, or I think that if I were to prioritize the picks, number one would be quarterback or offensive tackle. Both of those are the highest needs. Then I would go cornerback, then wide receiver. Those are the needs of the draft, but what would your order be?
I think I would have either quarterback, or offensive line as our first priority, whichever one is just the best option for us available. Then it would be cornerback, like you said. But for the next priority, it's either safety or receiver. I don't know if we're really too needy on receivers or safeties. I mean, we have a receiving core set for next season. We have Marquise Goodwin, who just came in. We have Mooney taking that wide receiver 2 position. We have Arab still, being the demon that he is as a wide receiver 1. So I don't know if just wide receiver, we need to pick that high for wide receiver. I kind of think we should go towards that fifth round, try to hit on receiver like we did Mooney. So we'll see what happens. I don't know too much about Jalen Darden. But I mean, if people are giving praise, then yeah, if fourth, fifth round, if he drops, then yeah, I don't pick him up.
All right, so now I'd like to talk about our individual mock drafts. So each of us, we went through the PFF mock draft simulator, and in the 6th round mock, for round 1, pick 20, I picked Elijah Vera Tucker out of USC. And like we talked about before, he's a great prospect. I don't know how he managed to fall to me. I don't know if he will realistically be there in the draft, but I think that he is a snag 100%. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, if Elijah Vera Tucker is there, I would take him, but he didn't fall in my mock draft. I had Mac Jones fall in my mock draft, which yeah, I would think he would be a snag, which obviously you think somewhat otherwise, but
I think it would be decent. I wouldn't be ecstatic about the pick, but I
yeah.
would be happy.
But I mean, I feel like Mac Jones would probably be another QB that some people might take before us, kind of like just like the Patriots even. But yeah, if Elijah Vera Tucker was there, I would 100% take him. The dude's solid offensive lineman. I would be happy to take him. If not, yeah, I had Mac Jones. I feel like that'd be a solid pick as well. So either one.
In round 2, pick 52, I had quarterback Kellen Mond out of Texas A&M. I think that this was a great pick. Obviously, I'm big on Kellen Mond. I like his arm talent. I like that his ability to run outside of the pocket. I think that he's a solid prospect, and obviously there's not very much a hit percentage on quarterbacks past the 2nd round or past the 1st round. But I think that coming out of the Texas A&M system, quarterbacks that are very underrated, like we saw Patrick Mahomes get passed on. He lasted until 10 in the 2017 draft.
Yeah.
And he's the best quarterback in the league. I'm not going to say that's going to be Kellen Mond, but I think that he's a solid prospect. And at pick 52, I think that we had to get him because he was not going to last until the 3rd.
Yeah. If we were to end up getting Elijah Vera Tucker in the 1st, and then Kelmont falls to us in the 2nd, yeah, I would take him. That's a solid pickup. For me, since I got Mac Jones in the 1st, I ended up getting Walker Little, who was a tackle out of Stanford, who was just the best available tackle that I could have gotten out of my draft. Which yeah, he'd just be a solid pickup for that tackle position. If we were to get a quarterback in the 1st, should prioritize the best tackle available in the 2nd, unless obviously they take all the good tackles, and then we're just left with dirt ones. But yeah,
No,
I had Walker
definitely.
Little.
The
Yeah,
offensive tackle draft class is so deep, so
yeah, it is deep. So yeah,
there's
so
definitely has to be prospects available in the 2nd round, and Walker Little is a solid prospect, so that's a good pick.
yeah, so I think that's a good pick as well. And for round 3, on pick 83, I got Jamar Johnson, a safety out of Indiana. I think if he were to follow us to the 3rd round, I think that's a solid pickup for us. He could learn behind Eddie Jackson, Deshaun Gibson for the year. If Since Deshaun Gibson is old and Eddie Jackson does have injuries every once in a while, he could step in and just play that position. And I think he'll be a dog for us. I think he'll be another snag for us. I want
I
to get
got
your
the
thoughts on that.
same pick in round 3, pick 83. I picked Stacy Jamar Johnson out of Indiana. I agree. I think that he could develop greatly within the Chicago Bears defense. He would play. He would be the strong safety role. We could have Sean Gibson. Sean Gibson is a former Pro Bowler. He was an AFC interception leader multiple times. Him and Eddie Jackson teaching him or being his mentors altogether would be a great pick. And I agree with that pick. I think that would be a solid pick in the 3rd round.
Yep, I agree too. And going on, we're going to start going in the later rounds. Our next pick is 164 in the 5th round. So I had Tay Gowan, a cornerback out of University of Central Florida. So we kind of just need to get some cornerbacks to just get some depth or learn behind Jalen Johnson and Desmond Trufant and see if they can sort of step up in that nickelback position or step up in the quarterback 2 position and just bring some sort of composition between them and Kendall Veldor. So I want to get your thoughts on that.
Agreed. I don't know much about Tay Gowan, but I know that 100% we need to address the cornerback position in the draft as we have Desmond Trufant on a 1-year deal, and we have Jalen Johnson stepping into the cornerback 1 role pretty soon. On round 5, pick 164, I picked wide receiver K. Johnson out of South Dakota State. He doesn't have that big of a build, and he's more of a late round pick, as we said. Just hoping to hit on a wide receiver like last year. Like with Donna Mooney, we hit big on a wide receiver. So hoping that he would fit within the system. His stats are pretty impressive, so I think that overall that was a solid pick.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. If we can shoot on a receiver in the late rounds, if we were to hit, we were to hit. That's going to be amazing for us. Like just like you said, like the Darnell Mooney thing. But if not, I mean, it is what it is. It's a
Mhm.
round 5 pick. So yeah, I mean, I think that's a solid pick. We do need sort of just like depth under in the receiving core. Maybe he could step up, take over that wide receiver three behind A-Rob and Mooney. If not, he could just be solid depth for us. I mean, we do have a solid receiving group, so I didn't really draft any receivers. But yeah, I mean, that's just a late round pick.
Mm-hmm. In round 6, which we have so many picks in the 6th round because
Yeah.
we have compensatory picks and then we have our own. Round 6, picks 204, I picked cornerback Zech McPherson out of Texas Tech. From what I've seen, he's a decent prospect. Obviously, he's not top of the line as he's a 6th round pick. But looking to add more cornerback depth, we have a couple of cornerbacks. We have a decent amount of cornerbacks on the roster, but just hoping that he'll hit. Not expecting very much, but hoping that he'll be a solid rotational player for the team.
Yeah, I think that'd be solid. I mean, it's round 6, hit on a late round cornerback. If you were to go in, be solid depth, but it's still you just gotta. It's a hit or miss with them. So for me on pick 204, I picked center Drew Dahlman from Stanford. So another one. So he like my pick 2 where I got Walker Little from Stanford as a tackle. Drew Dahlman played center, and I think he has a skill set to sort of move into that guard position as well. I think he'd just be solid depth for us, nothing more. I don't think he'd be just anything starting. If you were to learn behind Sam Mustipher in that center position, maybe you can even outwork Sam Mustipher. But with pairing him and Walker Little up together, as just they've known each other since Stanford, so I think it'll be a solid pickup for us.
In round 6, picks 208, I picked the same player. I picked center Drew Dahlman out of Stanford. I think that he'd be another solid developmental prospect. As you said, you picked Walker Little out of Stanford. To have him learn under Sam Mustipher, who was a solid center for us last year, to possibly even have him come in on the interior O-line, I think that he'd be a decent prospect. Obviously, not expecting very much out of him, but it would be a great pick, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. For pick 208, I had Ernest Jones, who's a linebacker out of South Carolina. I think we need some depth in that linebacker position. Of course, we know Trevathan is getting old and it's a little bit injury prone. Roquan has been a little bit injury prone as well. So if we were to get depth in that linebacker position, and Ernest Jones is decent at against the run, and he's just a chase down linebacker. So I think it would just be solid to learn behind Roquan or Trevathan, and possibly if one of them were to fall, he could step in and just prove solid depth for us.
Agreed. We definitely need depth within that division. As you saw within the Saints game when we didn't
Yeah,
have Roquan, it was insane down there. We had to
yeah,
have Manti Te'o come in. We had Josh Woods come in for a little bit, and
yeah.
it was
They look
disastrous.
lost. Yeah, they look lost. They didn't know. So we just got to work on that position.
In round 6, pick 221, I picked edge rusher Patrick Jones out of Pitt. I think that he's a decent prospect. I looked a little bit into him. That coming from Pitt, there's so many great players that have come from Pitt.
Yeah,
Aaron Donald, obviously the pass rushes that come from Pitt are great. And we have decent depth along that. We have Robert Quinn. We have Jeremiah Ochi. We have Khalil Mack. Obviously, we have a decent amount of players there. But to have another developmental prospect would be great for the team.
no, I agree with you. I think we should at least hit on at least one edge rusher to try to get a developmental prospect. For my so I'm gonna say my 228 pick before I say my 221, just so I can just tie it up with yours because I picked an edge at 228, Taron Jackson from Coastal Carolina. I think you'll be a solid edge rusher for us. Sort of just as like a prospect to learn behind the edge rushers that we have, Khalil Mack. Um, I'm gonna trash Robert Quinn again, so I'm sorry, but not Robert Quinn, but maybe Jeremy Atauchu, or maybe just learn from Travis Gibson. I think he could still be better than Robert Quinn. But yeah, he'll just be that hit or miss type player. And at 221, I chose Jalen Moore, who was just a tackle from Western Michigan. Well, I just think we'll just be round 6 hit or miss. Try to see if he can be solid. If not, just gonna be like one of those practice squad like Arlington Hambright or the other dude
Latavius
we got.
Simmons,
Yeah,
yeah.
Latavius Simmons. So I mean, it's round 6, so we gotta get depth on that tackle too.
With my very last pick, I picked quarterback Sam Ellinger out of Texas. I decided to go for the 2 quarterback route because you've seen it work with teams before. Obviously, with the Washington football team in 2012, they decided to trade up everything to draft Robert Griffin
Yep.
in the first round, and then they drafted Kirk Cousins, who ended up being their starting quarterback in a couple of years later. So to have the two quarterback system, I think that it's obviously the sixth round. We're not expecting to completely hit. I'm not expecting this guy to be the next Drew Brees. I'm not expecting him to be the next Aaron Rodgers, but also to have familiarity. When I said we hired Tom Herman as an offensive analyst, he was his coach for the past several years. So having him as the very last pick in pick 228, I think that would be decent. I'm not expecting too much out of him, but I like the pick.
Yeah, I mean, I like the pick too, to be honest. He looks kind of decent from college, but I saw a lot of people from the Bears are hyping him up from the Bears fan base. Yeah, for a round 6 pick, why not? Sure, get him. I mean, if he does well for us, that's solid. It's just like you said with the whole Redskins situation. But yeah, why not?
Now I'd like to talk about possible trades. So the number one trade that we've been talking about is trading up at number 4 overall with the Falcons, who have shown that they're open to trading that because they don't have much positional value. I wouldn't say that they're looking to add Penei Sewell. I wouldn't say that they're looking to add any of the top. They're not looking for a receiver who are some of the top prospects in this draft. They have one of the best receiving corps. They have Julio Jones, who is arguably the best receiver in the league. They have Calvin Ridley, who is arguably, or actually he's definitely a top 15 receiver in my eyes, at least. They have an insane receiving corps. They have Hayden Hurst as well. So I wouldn't say that they're looking to draft any offensive talent, maybe Penei Sewell, but they've definitely shown that that they're open to trading down. So if there's a deal if the San Francisco 49ers pass on Justin Fields at 3 and there's an opening to get to 4, I think that would be great.
Yeah, I mean, if Justin Fields or Zach Wilson were to fall, but I don't think Zach Wilson will fall to 4. But if Justin Fields were to fall, yeah, I mean, as long as we're not offering up just everything, absolutely,
the next 10 years worth of first rounders.
Yeah, and then I mean, I would trade up for 4 and try to snag him. But honestly, I don't see Justin Fields going past that 3rd. I think the 49ers will take him, like I said. I think the 49ers just doing some smoke screen saying they want to take Mac Jones. Which I don't know why. Because they think the Jets might take Justin Fields.
Yeah.
But
maybe they really want Zach Wilson, and that's why they're doing all of this.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens. I mean, the draft is unpredictable. But if Justin Fields falls to us, I could see us going there. But even if he's available at 6 with the Dolphins, I don't mind us trading up and getting Justin Fields there either. But I wouldn't trade up for any other player besides Justin Fields if he was available at 6.
I would not do this for Trey Lance. I would not do this for Mac Jones. If Justin Fields is there at 6, and the Dolphins, they've had like a quarterback. They've had a first round pick carousel. They had 3rd overall, then they went to 12th overall, then they came back to 6. I think that they came back to 6 just because they want to draft a wide receiver for Tua, get him some more talent, or they want to hold the cards because they think that one of the quarterbacks is going to drop, and they think that they're going to have the ability to acquire some picks. You've seen that they've been great with acquiring picks for the past couple of years, first rounders. They traded Minkah Fitzpatrick. They traded what was his name? The tackle out of Texans. Laramie Tunsil.
Yeah.
They traded Laramie Tunsil. They turned Laramie Tunsil into so many first-round picks. They are masters of turning picks into more picks. So I could see them holding the cards. Oh, the front office is great.
Front office.
So I could see them just wanting to hold the cards. And if Justin Fields is there at 6, take him.
Yeah, I agree. If Justin Fields is there at 6, like I said, if we were willing to trade up to, Justin Fields is there at 6, take him. I mean, Dolphins, they just need offensive weapons, which they can trade back and get. I mean, you got Kyle Pitts, who I think will probably go towards that like 9-10-ish, or maybe even later on. If we were able to get like a 3-way trade where the Dolphins are able to get in the middle, we're able to get the Dolphins position, and whoever they trade with in that 3rd gets our first round, then I think that would be solid. But if we can get Justin Fields, sure.
Another trade that I've been seeing is that we could possibly have the trade partner with the Cowboys at 10 overall if Kyle Pitts does not get to them. What do you think about that?
if Justin Fields is there, yeah. If Trey Lance is there, maybe I don't know.
I don't
if we
think
can,
Justin Fields would be there, but if
I
Trey
don't think
Lance
Justin
is
Fields is
there,
there. If
maybe.
Trey Lance is there, if we don't trade up too much, then yeah, I'd go up for him. But 10 is sort of a reach. I feel like we would have to offer up a lot to go from 20 to 10. But if they're that high on Trey Lance and they're not willing to give up multiple first rounders, or our entire draft, then yeah, actually, yeah.
To go from 20 to 10, I would not, and to get Trey Lance, I wouldn't mind giving this year's first and next year's first, maybe like another second. I think that'd be a solid trade. I don't think Kyle Pitts is gonna escape the top 10. I think that he's too great of a prospect when you look at his receiving and his blocking ability. So I think that the Cowboys are just enamored with building a Madden team. That's all they love to do. They like to focus on offense.
They want to get offensive weapons. Yeah, they want to get offensive weapons. I have no clue why they were struggling on defense for.
Yeah, I don't know either, man.
Whole season, but I could see him picking up Kyle Pitts.
And then another one, you see the Chargers at 13 overall. The Chargers could definitely trade down. They could snag. I don't see Rashawn Slater dropping to 13, but it's possible. They're looking to build up their O-line, so I could see them taking Darisaw or Slater at 13 overall, or I could see them trading down. And if, like you said, Trey Lance is there at 13, then I would love to trade up for him.
Yeah, if Trey Lance is there at 13, I think we should trade up for him, snag him there. But the Chargers do need to build up their offensive line. They are struggling on offensive line. They got an amazing quarterback, Justin Herbert, so they got to build up protection for him. And I think them being at 13th overall will be a solid. They could be able to get a solid pickup for him, either in the tackle or in the guard position. Especially with just how many good tackles there's probably going to be in that top 15. So I don't know if the Chargers will trade back unless we give them a decent trade, but if there are no tackles left somehow that they like, then yeah, they'll probably trade back to us if Trey Lance is there. But that's probably the farthest Trey Lance would probably go. I don't think Trey Lance would go past 13, to be honest. He'd probably be taken between 10 to 15. 14 and 15 is sort of just like a high.
I don't see him. The Patriots pick at 15. If there's no way that he gets past 15, but 13 there is a slight possibility.
I agree.
Thank you guys for listening to the Shy Bears Blitz podcast. We've got a great episode for you next week. We're going to be showing our draft reactions to each of the Bears picks. We're going to be giving our insight. We're going to be talking about each of the picks. We're going to be diving into their stats for the past years. We're going to be talking about how they fit within the system, and it's going to be a great episode. Thank you guys for listening, and stay tuned for next week's episode. Take care.
See you guys.